Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I hope you had a good week, and I hope that this will be a good Shabbos and a good weekend for you. I was reading the Parsha this week, and it's a Parsha that's always considered to be one of the more irrelevant Parshiot to life in our times. What I was fascinated by is the fact that there couldn't be a Parsha more relevant to our times. A few years ago, we wouldn't have said that. But because of living through the year of COVID and being in the midst of what we're in the midst of, it seems to really speak to us. The parshiot that are done are Tazria Mitzora, and they deal with things like purity and impurity after childbirth. They deal with issues having to do with skin afflictions, specifically having to do with leprosy. It deals with emissions that come from the body. It has to do with isolation and it has to do with visitation. So it's really a fascinating piece because it comes from the ancient world, and yet so many of these things we have dealt with this year, specifically in terms of quarantine and isolation and illness. And so there are a couple things in the Parsha that I think give us something to think about and to learn from. One is that in the ancient world, the healer was the priest, the high priest. The job of spiritual healing, psychological healing, physical healing was in the hands of one person. This wasn't science as we know it, but it was as scientific as it could get during those times. But there's a lesson in it, which I'm sure many of us, if not most of us, are aware of, and that is that healing is not just a physical state. It's not just a physical process. Healing is also psychological, and it's also spiritual. Acceptance of where we are, comfort in our own situation, the capacity to hold on to both reality and hope are part of the process of healing. We have bodies and we have souls, and both of those need to be integrated as we are healing. The second is that the priest would go out to the diseased person, to the leper. There was no appointment made. The leper didn't go into the priest's office, but rather the priest went to them. And this notion of being isolated and being lonely, which has been so much a part of our condition, has been alleviated by people reaching out. And although there were times we couldn't see people face to face, it's in the interpersonal relationship and the contact with another human being that relief comes and that healing comes. I'm always amazed at how an ancient text, which seems so far from our lives, can actually continue to give us meaning, sometimes new meaning, if not refresh our vision. Shabbat Shalom.